Hey guys, and welcome to my third weekly wrap-up for February. Once again, this is being uploaded on a Thursday, which is like 4 days after the day that I want to have it uploaded, which is on Sunday. So I meant to do this before now, but it happened again. But whatever. Oh well. Like I said last time, at least it's going up at all. I'm very happy that I'm actually getting these up at least. And maybe we'll see if they end up getting on a schedule where they're actually released on Sundays, which is the day that I really want them to go up on. So Giselle keeps suggesting to me to film them either Friday nights or Saturday nights and then get them edited and all that stuff beforehand so that when Sunday comes around they'll already be done and I won't have to worry about them anymore. So I'm going to try that this weekend and see what happens. Because I've already read like 4 things this week and it's always kind of annoying having to go back to the week previous when I'm so far into this week already, but I'm going to do it anyway. So last week I read 4 things and got about a third of the way through something else. And so the first thing that I got through was actually a non-fiction book. It's a memoir by Roger Ebert, who is one of my favorite film critics, well, was one of my favorite film critics, and his book is called Life Itself. And I liked this quite a bit, actually. I really like Roger Ebert. I've always really loved reading his reviews. It was really sad when he died. I don't know if everyone knows this or not, but I went to school, I went to college and got a degree in like photography and film making and stuff like that. And it was always like one of my dreams to eventually one day make a movie that Roger Ebert would review, and hopefully a positive review, like hopefully he would like it and give me a good review. But that was kind of an unrealistic goal because he was getting kind of up there and some things was happening in his life. It's not like very likely that I would get to that point before he ended up passing away. So anyway, I really am glad that I read this. I gave it a 4 stars. It was a really interesting look into his life. I had some tiny little issues with it, just the way it was structured. The way he tells a story, first of all, is just really good. He's really good at telling a story about his life. He mentions several times within the book, especially in the beginning, how well he remembers memories, especially once he started not being able to speak anymore. I don't know if you guys know anything about Roger Ebert, but he had cancer and he kind of lost the ability to use his mouth. His jaw had to be removed and he wasn't able to talk anymore towards the end of his life. And so once he started not being able to talk anymore, he started like being focused on like in his own mind a little bit more and started thinking a lot and started realizing that he remembered a lot of things, and so he started writing them down in like blog posts on his website. And some of the things in this book I believe are from his blog, which kind of makes sense because some of them are kind of jumbled. Some of the stories are kind of jumbled a little bit and some of the stories repeat themselves a little bit, but we'll get back to that in a second. So it was really interesting reading about the memories that he has about his life, his history with becoming what he was before he died, the film critic that he eventually ended up being, how he got to that point in his life, and how he ended up growing to love doing it. And I really enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, it did have some structural issues for me personally. It was really strange. Sometimes it would just like jump back and forth quite a lot. It felt very jumbled and very discombobulated. He starts talking about a lot of things and then he'll like move on and then come back to it later, and it just kind of jumps around a lot in time. It's very non-linear for his life, and I guess that's okay. I wasn't sure exactly at what point in his life he was talking about because he would jump back and forth so much. So like one point he'd be talking about his childhood, and then he'd be talking about something that happened way later in life, and then he would go back to another earlier point in his life, and it was just a tiny bit jumbled up, but at the same time it wasn't that big of a deal, and I ended up really liking it anyway and really enjoying reading about his life. So I'm really glad that I read it, and I definitely suggest that you read it if you liked Roger Ebert at all as a critic, if you knew who he was or read any of his reviews or have any interest in the film industry at all. And I mean, if you do have some sort of interest in the film industry, you should know who Roger Ebert is and should know a little bit about him. So I mean, this book could potentially be interesting for you to read. The next thing that I finished last week was House of Many Ways by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the 3rd book in the Howl's Moving Castle trilogy series, I guess. Companion series kind of thing. That's what Giselle says it kind of is. Because none of the books really are necessary for the other books. At least the first book kind of like stands alone, and then the second one kind of does its own thing, and the third one they all have some of the same characters show up at some points, but they're really their own thing. Each one is really their own thing, and I like this one a lot. I think I like this one about as much as I like the first one. I didn't really like the second one that much, which I kind of described in my last weekly wrap-up, February weekly wrap-up number 2, and this one was a lot better, I think. This one was a lot more coherent and a lot more interesting and a lot it was just a lot funner and had that same kind of whimsical feeling the first book had. I really liked Diana Wynne Jones's writing in this. I felt like it was, like I said, it was back to that feeling you get in Howl's Moving Castle, where it's just fun and funny and fantastical, and I really liked it. It's about this girl who has to go take care of this house. It's her uncle's house, and he's been taken away by elves because he's sick or something, and it's really interesting because the house has some interesting things going on inside of it. And then this kid named Peter comes along, and Peter is kind of a jerk, and this girl that stays at the house is kind of a brat, and I don't really like the characters as people that much sometimes, but it didn't really hinder my enjoyment of it. I think they were a lot of fun reading about, and I feel like they did kind of grow. Maybe Peter didn't grow that much, but the girl, Charmaine, definitely did, and I really liked how this book itself ended. I feel like it was a good ending to this overall companion series, Howl's Moving Castle, and I really liked how old characters had a part in this and what part they had to play in this. It was a lot of fun. I gave that one a pretty solid 4 stars, where I think I gave the second one like a 2.5 or a 3. The next book is one that I was not planning to read at first, and wasn't something that I really thought that I would really like a lot, but I ended up really liking it a lot, and the reason I read it was because Giselle was talking about it a lot. It's one of her favorites. She talked about it a lot on her vlog. She did this really great little discussion about books in general and realistic relationships and expectations and stuff like that in our vlog, and it was a lot of fun to hear her talk about it, and it's always really exciting to hear her talk about the book she's excited about, because she's very passionate about them, and due to that I was like, I'm going to read this too. The book is Enchanted by Gail Carson Levine, and I really liked it a lot. It was very nice. It was a very nice story. I liked it for a lot of the same reasons that I liked another book that Giselle recommended to me. That's another one of her favorites, Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett, which I read last year and really enjoyed, just because it was a really nice, sweet, really good story that is really enjoyable to listen to. And I did listen to it, and the audiobook is a little bit of an acquired taste, if I'm being honest. It's read by this girl with a very high voice, and I thought it was like a little kid that was reading it first. Giselle said it might have been someone older, like a teenager or something like that. I don't know, but it took a little bit to get used to the narrator's voice, I'm going to be honest. But I did want to listen to it because that's what Giselle usually does when she reads it, I think. So I listened to it, and I really liked it. And it's basically a Cinderella retelling kind of thing, and it's probably the best and my favorite Cinderella retelling that I've ever heard of or read or seen in any form of media. I think it was so good. It was such a refreshing take on the story, and such a refreshing take on building up to where that story begins, because in Cinderella stories we always begin with like Cinderella is this depressing, really subservient kind of girl who just has no choice but to be that, and really wants to go to this ball, and then she does, and then the prince like falls in love with her even though he doesn't know who she is, and then tries to find her, and like how can he not recognize her when literally all she changed was like her hair and like the stuff she's wearing, and like it's really silly, and I feel like it's one of those kinds of stories. It's a fairy tale that just really kind of sends the wrong message to people about stuff, about love and falling in love and relationships and all that stuff. But this book, it really builds up to that. You start off a lot sooner than that original Cinderella story, and you get a bit of a glimpse into Ella's life. Ella has been cursed by this fairy who thinks she's giving Ella a gift when she was first born, but is actually pretty much a curse because she is cursed to always obey people. She is cursed with obedience, so whenever someone tells her to do something, she has to do it no matter what it is. If someone tells her to cut all her hair off or jump out a window, she would have to do them if they were orders. If they were something that it was a command, then she would have to do it in some fashion. But it's really funny because Ella always does her very best to mess with the people who order her to do stuff, the stuff that she has to be obedient towards. She does find a way to be obedient towards that, but she also finds some way to not do it the exact way that the person wanted them to. They have to be very specific, or else she'll try her best to keep herself from being too obedient, and it's really, really fun. I really like that aspect of it a lot. I really liked Ella as a character, and I really liked a lot of the characters in this, even though some of them are really grating on your nerves and stuff like that, and you can't stand some of them, but they're just really, really, it's a really good story and a really good Cinderella retelling, and we see this really great relationship build up between this prince and Ella, and it's like really natural, and it happens really naturally, and they're just friends for a really long time inside of it, and they don't like get to see each other very often, but they're just like friends and talk to each other whenever they get to see each other, and then when they're not together, she's not like aimlessly focusing on it all the time. She has lots of other stuff to deal with, and it's very apparent that she's not like completely obsessed with him and he's not completely obsessed with her. They have their own things going on, but they do think about each other, they are friends, and they do have this thing together, and it just kind of slowly builds throughout the book and really, really works when the Cinderella retelling kind of starts to kind of come into play, when the actual like story for Cinderella starts to come into play inside the plot. It really, really works very well. And so I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really, really liked it. It was a really nice and sweet story that I highly recommend. Even if you don't necessarily think you're going to like it, you never know, you might. And then the last book that I finished this week is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, and I gave this one 3 stars. I have a lot of things to say about this, I think. It was an okay story, and it was written well enough, I guess. It just was not what I was hoping for or looking for, which is not really its fault, and I'm kind of giving this rating to it based on the fact that I just don't think this book was for me necessarily, but I feel like it could be good for other people. I feel like the writing and the story are written well enough that other people would like it. So basically, I kind of went into it, I was looking around for like some mysteries, and I knew this one wasn't going to be like the exact kind of mystery that I had been listening to previously, but it was like this girl disappears, then it's presumed that something's happened to her, and her family is just like really, really affected by it, and it's pretty much all about her family kind of dealing with this. And I guess I thought it would be more about them trying to figure out what happened to this girl and why and all that stuff, and that does kind of focus on that a little bit, but it mostly focuses on a lot of family drama, and I feel like it's very over dramatic family drama. Like, it kind of feels like a soap opera a lot of the time. Just all this stuff these people not just have happened to them, but just do to themselves consistently. They're all just messing themselves up, messing their own lives up, right and left, every single one of them in lots of different ways, and I'm sure there's people that are like that and families that are like that, but it felt super over dramatic for me in this, and I couldn't really get past that a lot of the time. I was really, really hoping that more mystery aspects would come into it, some more mysterious elements that I feel like could have been really cool and could have really made it a lot better, could have made it a more compelling story and more interesting story than just this very, very straightforward kind of family drama. I feel like it was trying not to be straightforward with the way it was told, because it kind of jumps back and forth and all that stuff, and there are some redeeming qualities to the way in which the story is told, but overall I feel like it was lacking quite a bit, and I'm not sure if that was just me and because it wasn't what I was looking for, or if that's because it's just the way the book is, but I'm sure a lot of people really like it. I'm sure a lot of people already do like it, and I can see why. Like I said, it just might not have been for me, although like I said, there is some good points to the storytelling aspect. Mostly, I mean, in the way that it's written, that the author does a really, really good job of passing the perspective from one character to the next. It's all in third person, but we can go throughout like whole paragraphs or whole parts following one character, and then it'll be very, very smoothly transitioned into following the perspective of another character. Like, it could be from sentence to sentence, it could be from paragraph to paragraph, or we can go for a really long time with one character and then end up switching to another character. For instance, if something is mentioned or something like a character is mentioned in some way, sometimes we'll switch to that character and it'll flow really well into the next character that's we're going to read from the perspective of. And I felt like that was really successful in the writing. I feel like the writing definitely did a good job of keeping the narrative flowing by switching from character to character and really giving us each character's perspective and building up the characters. And I feel like the characters were pretty well developed and she did a pretty good job of making them fully realized characters, but I feel like they were just very overdramatic characters and very overly messed up characters, and just sometimes they would do things that I feel like a normal person wouldn't do in that situation if they had that personality that I felt like they had. There are certain things that they like did that felt just outside of their personality, and that kind of bothered me, but the way in which they were written in general was pretty good. So overall, I gave this about a 2.5 or a 3. I thought it was okay. It was an okay story that was fairly okay written, just not exactly what I was hoping for, and in that way was a little bit disappointing, but that's okay. I actually hadn't ever planned on reading this, but it was on overdrive at my library, so I just thought I might as well give it a shot. I have this whole list of books on overdrive that I want to listen to that I might not have listened to normally, but since they're free and I can just listen to them and kind of put them on hold or borrow them whenever I want to, I just went ahead and gave it a shot. And I'm going to be doing that with a lot of books in the near future, so I gave it a shot. Wasn't my thing. That's okay. Anyway, that's everything that I finished this week, and then I got about a third of the way through Arrows of the Queen by Mercedes Lackey. I am really liking this a lot, and I'm really hoping I can finish it in the next few days so I can talk about it in my next wrap-up. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, because I'm spending way more time working and doing other things than sitting down and reading physical books. I spend quite a lot of time working on editing videos for a vlog, and we're making a lot of plans for starting a Let's Play channel very soon. We're doing stuff for our 2 channels, and I'm just working quite hard, so I haven't been reading physically all that much, but I do really enjoy this a lot. I kind of really like the writing a lot, I like the characters a lot, I like the story a lot, and I'm really excited to talk more about this because I feel like a lot of people on BookTube would really like this, and I don't really see Mercedes Lackey being talked about on the SFF community on BookTube, and I feel like that's a shame because from the little that I've read so far, I can tell that I really like it, and I think it's really good. And it was written in the 70s and feels fresh and stuff, and it's really nice. So anyway, that's everything that I got through this week. Hopefully you'll get my next weekly wrap-up in a few days instead of a whole week from now when it's already March and all that stuff. But that's everything for this week, and if you haven't already, I would love it if you would check out Giselle and I's vlog channel. We work really hard on it and are having a lot of fun doing it, and are always really excited about it, and the friends that we're making through comments and people viewing it and talking to us about them and stuff, and it's really fun. So anyway, that's everything for now, so thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later with more.